Welcome, welcome, welcome. Caitlin is laughing. We are just chuckling away here before we even start to hit record. This is the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with Caitlin, Green Sarah Burke, and this gentleman, Dan Riskin. He is a scientist and a bat lover. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, not a baseball bat lover, although we will ask him that today. Do you like baseball bats too, Dan Riskin?
Not the way I like
No,
mammals,
not the way he
no.
likes bats. You can see him on CTV, the Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, the Smithsonian Channel, Gee Whiz, and a bunch of other places talking about parasites, bats, and science. He makes science fun, and his weekly newsletter, The Bat Signal, is the best place to find all of his content. And we are going to have the link for that in the show notes, because I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. It's too lengthy. He's one of our favorite repeat guests on here. I can't even believe that he decides to come back again and again.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
Well,
he loves coming here. As long as we're talking about me in the third person. He really likes this show. He's a huge fan and he loves coming here. And
Jann loves to blow dry her hair, and she's also a lot of third. Anyway, Dan Riskin, welcome to the Jann Arden pod.
Thank you. So excited to be back. This is so fun.
You were in the Galapagos Islands.
Yes.
Now, do tell. We have a lot to talk about, but the Galapagos.
I believe it's called Galapagos.
Galapagos?
Just rolled off his tongue, no problem.
Okay, well, anyway.
Galapagos. Yeah, Galapagos.
Galapagos
Oh my God.
Islands.
I'm so sorry. I haven't been microdosing anything this morning. I swear to God.
Maybe you should.
You were doing an eco tour. Ecotourism seems to be catching on, Dan. Do tell us every little detail.
Yeah, well, I'd love to. So I've done the Galapagos once, and I'm doing it again this fall, and I do it with a company called Quest Nature Tours. And it is, I mean, if you're a biologist or you're a fan of science or whatever, you know of this person named Darwin. And Darwin is famous because as a young man, he took a boat ride and went and looked at a bunch of animals and then sort of pieced things together and came up with this idea about natural selection and evolution and changed how we understand our place in the universe, where we came from, like the biggest questions you can possibly ask. And so a lot of biologists, spend a lot of time thinking about how Darwin came up with that idea and what set his thinking apart. And a big part of it is this voyage he took to the Galapagos. So the Galapagos is interesting from that historical perspective, but it's also just an amazing place in terms of like places you can go on the planet, because there are these islands that are 800 kilometers from the coast of South America, and they're just alone. And there weren't any people there until the 1800s. Like no people went there. And so you've got this undisturbed ecosystem with giant tortoises and weird flightless cormorants and hammerhead sharks and all these like just amazing creatures, many of which are found nowhere else. And it was there that Darwin noticed all these, differences between the animals on different islands and came up with this theory of natural selection. So to go there, you have this real sense of like, this is a really important place. It's interesting on its own, but it's also an important place in the history of humanity and how humans and the evolution of scientific thought itself. And so to go there, you're just the whole time, you're just like, wow, wow, wow. Like that's your internal monologue the whole time. It's really an amazing place.
It's not really built for tourism as per se. Like there's not hotels and restaurants and nightclubs. This is a place where you literally tread lightly, don't disturb anything. And I would imagine that all your meals, your sleeping quarters are on a ship of some kind.
Yeah. So actually it's really impressive the way they do it. So there are a couple spots where there are hotels, and I don't think casinos, maybe casinos. I didn't see any, but there are places where there's the nightlife and all that stuff, but it's isolated
on Galapagos, on the island.
I forget what the name of there's a big city on one of the islands, and that's sort of where that is. But when you get out to the other islands, they're very much protected, and they do it brilliantly. What they do is they create this one little walkway on the edge of an island that is beautiful, from which you get beautiful vistas and you see nice things. You get dropped off by your boat at 9:35 a.m. with a guide. You walk within the lines. There are ropes on either side of you. You walk on the trail that you're supposed to walk. You finish that walk half an hour or an hour later, depending on the walk, and you get back on your little boat and it takes you out to your ship. And then the next group starts at that exact time. And so at any given time, you feel like you're alone. You feel like you have the whole island to yourself. but your footsteps are only treading this one little strip on this one little edge of the island, and the rest of it is left to nature. And so by having this really great system, they can protect it from the hundreds of thousands, I'm not exaggerating, of tourists that go to the Galapagos every year. It's one of the most amazing places you can go, and they just really do it brilliantly. You're not allowed to explore without a guide, and the guides have a scheduled time, scheduled walk. They all know each other, and it works really well as a result. And you have this feeling like you're getting to explore it in the quiet. You get to hear the silence of the place, but at the same time, you get to be part of a large group of people that are getting to explore it and have those great experiences without
And it does
feeling
need to
like
be
you're in Italy.
protected. Like you
Mhm.
absolutely
Oh, yeah.
have to tread lightly and make sure that these places do not disappear from the face of the earth.
Yeah, no,
I
islands
mean-
are especially vulnerable for sure, and so it needs to be protected, and they're doing just a bang up
Was
job.
it
Really good.
Santa Cruz Island or San Cristobal? Those are the two that came up.
Yeah, those are two islands. I mean, I forget. I should have done my Galapagos
No,
research
no.
beforehand. There's a half dozen of islands, and they're all
We
different
don't
sizes and
know
shapes.
anything on this podcast. We
Oh,
are
okay, well,
not
that-
factual. It is in the show notes. Like when we talk about stuff, it's strictly opinion based.
Yeah, but when the
not,
scientist comes in to talk about the Galapagos and he can't name the islands, you're like, who did you get? Did you get a discount on this guy? Because he's not great. But anyway,
no.
He was
but
discounted.
I don't. There are several islands, but what's neat is that the life on the different islands is slightly different on every island. So like a bird that occurs on one island, it doesn't occur on the next island over, but the one that does occur on that second island is similar, just a little bit different. And what's kind of cool about islands is that you don't get the overwhelming biodiversity that you get in, say, the Amazon rainforest or something like that. And so for Darwin, when he went there weren't that many birds to keep track of. Like, it's not like when you go spend a minute in Peru and you're just like, holy smokes.
Maybe
there's
that's
like
for
a
the
zillion.
best.
It was because
Right?
that's how he could see the pattern, is that he didn't have that many birds to keep track of. So he was like, oh, yeah, you know what? The finches are different on the different islands. If there had been a zillion different kinds of finches, he might not have been able to notice those subtleties. So I think that's part of what made it really productive for him.
Have you ever read
Over to
his
you, Kate.
letters?
Over to you, Caitlin. You have a million questions, I'm sure.
I'm just wondering if Dan's ever read any of Darwin's letters.
I've read a bunch of stuff that I read On the Origin of Species, which I thought was really cool. That's the book where he sort of puts out his theory of natural selection. But I haven't read a lot of his letters. Why have you got like love letters of Darwin or something like that?
So
or
some
you
of
read
his letters are like public, and he's quite cranky, which I appreciate. And there
Yeah.
were some letters where he was writing to a friend about a sea voyage, and he said word for word, "I hate the sea," or "I loathe the sea and everything in it." And he
Yeah.
wanted to get off the ship. And I was like, okay, this makes me feel better about not being someone who enjoys camping if Darwin even hated being in the sea.
Yeah, and he got super sick too. Like he wasn't well in his old age because I think he had like Chagas disease, and like
What's that?
What's that?
It's something you get from kissing bugs. It's a parasite. He had
Oh.
a whole bunch of health
Well,
problems.
that
He had
stands
malaria.
to reason.
Yeah. But I mean, it was kind of dangerous to be a world explorer back in the day because you couldn't get all the nice vaccines that people refuse to get
Yeah.
today. I don't understand people. We don't need to go
God,
there.
you couldn't
but
get the stuff that people refuse to get now. This makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
See?
yeah, man, I'm Captain Vaccine. I love a vaccine. If I'm going somewhere, I want to know what needle can I be poked with
I get
before
vaccinated for vaccines. So if you want to just be extra careful, can I get a vaccine against
exactly.
vaccines? And they're like, yes, please step in.
Yeah,
our
I'm a
office.
huge fan of, and they're finding that like, especially for not yourself, but for elderly people, they're finding that a lot of these vaccines have extra bonus help for your immune
Yes.
system beyond the thing you're
Mhm.
getting.
Yeah,
shot
they're
for, so-
discovering things. Not only will you not get measles, but your breasts will get firmer.
Mm.
Now, once again, this is not a factual show, so
No,
do
but
not.
let's spread that rumor because I
Yeah.
think my breasts are not firm at all, and I'm going to get the measles vaccine again just in case.
Just as a footnote to this conversation, I want people to know that there's all kinds of different tours out there. So the ecotourism that Dan is referring to, these kinds of things exist all over the planet. You also can do things that are vegan tours. You can go online, and if there's something specific to you that you think you're interested in, use the World Wide Web, because you will find companies that are doing things really in innovative ways. Who doesn't want to like go through Italy and eat vegan food if that's what you're into? Or who doesn't want to go see, elephants from a distance where you're not interacting, you're not riding them, you're not feeding them, you literally get to sit somewhere and see them at a watering hole. Like, so don't, make sure you tap away and find the stuff that you want to do. Moving on, And this is something that we have issues with constantly, and thank God we have Sarah kind of monitoring us at all times with microphones. And bad microphones make you sound dumb. This is sort of this is what
Tell
Caitlin
us
has.
more, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
waiting.
Sarah, are you like super strict about microphone placement?
These two probably think I'm so annoying, but like I'm always just like, okay, there's like a few little things we can do to improve the sound if we can.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it's really interesting. They did a study where they had people listen to interviews with job candidates, and they played the exact same recording, but they played it either recorded sounding good or they put it through a digital filter, so it was the same recording, but it was altered to sound like it came from a bad microphone. And when I say bad microphone, I'm not talking about like a microphone in a basement across the room that doesn't work, that it's all crackly. I'm talking about just using the microphone that's built into your laptop and talking at your desk, the way most people
Or
do
a
Zoom
Yeti.
calls.
Just saying. Moving on.
Oh, well, yeah, we're going to badmouth different brands now. Okay, so
Jeez.
like
we
this
are not
is just,
sponsored by
it
Yeti.
sounded like, I listened to the recordings in the study, and they
Yeah.
sounded like a normal Zoom call, like the way
Okay.
people sound at their computer. But when people were asked rate the intelligence of the applicant and the hireability, they were 5% dumber and 10% less hireable. And that's
Okay.
interesting. They're saying
This
the
is-
exact same thing, but we
Checks
think they're
out.
dumber because their microphone sounds worse. And you would think that people ignore and filter out, like, oh, he's got a bad microphone, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm listening to what they say. But we don't. We're biological organisms, and we communicate with our voices. And listen, Jan, you know better than anyone, the voice is it's a musical instrument, and you communicate things about yourself with the nature of your voice. And we, as biological organisms, have evolved to pay attention to things in the voice. If you hear a very deep voice, you can make inferences about what made that noise, what that person's, how big they are, things like that. If you hear a very, weak voice, you infer things from that. And so when you hear a bad quality microphone, your brain takes that as information that's probably relevant. And it turns out that we take that as a mark on their intelligence.
Women in particular are criticized about the sounds of their voices.
Especially in arena settings. There is actually research that I read one time about like higher pitches in arenas. That's why they like try not. It's nothing against the women, but it's like if your voice is high pitched,
Well, but
the
it is
crowd
though.
is going
It
to.
is against women. So
Well, there can be
you know,
dudes with high pitched voices
yeah,
too.
there can
Just
be, but
saying.
in general, women are criticized because of the timbre
Yes.
of their voice. Whether
I
you're
mean,
a
hello,
politician
radio.
Yeah.
Right.
with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
grating voice, well, yeah, I mean, it's so important to have a pleasing voice. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm always amazed that microphones do the work that they do, and it is very specific to my work in particular. I have tried out dozens of microphones that suit my voice, that can take the weight
Cool.
of how I sing, the subtleties of it. And now, it probably took me 25 years, and I kid you not, to land on microphones that suit me perfectly and that hold the weight of what I'm doing and the subtleties of what I'm doing. So I'm with you 1,000,000% on this. It's really important. And if you are doing a lot of Zoom calls, it's well worth investing in a proper microphone and a set of headphones. If that's part of your job, and especially if you're looking for a job, you can get microphones that are good quality. They're not going to cost you $1 million.
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, put a link up, because if you're thinking of, even if you're joining like our book club, for instance, we have a book club here at the Jann Arden podcast, and a lot of people are indeed using their computer speakers. And I know that when someone has a microphone and they're putting their hand in the air to ask something or to make a comment, it's so much easier for everyone to hear and understand. So anyway, that's just a little of that.
Yeah, I bought I'm just pulling it out now, a Samson
That's a good one. Samsonite.
QTU. It's like this USB mic, and I travel with it, and it's great because then if I'm on the road and I do a radio appearance, I can sound like I'm in a studio. It's great.
Yeah.
But
So
what's hilarious
handy.
is it looks like a vibrator. And so when I went through airport security, I had a really awkward moment where like I go through security and I put my bag through, and then the guy is like, excuse me, in your bag. And I look over his shoulder and I could see the x-ray, and clearly somebody has a vibrator in their bag. And then I realized that's my microphone in that bag. That's my bag. And he's asking me, he's like, do you have a microphone? And I was like, thank God, yes. But like, what if I didn't?
I'm
What if
going to
that had
start
been a
saying that.
vibrator?
Yes,
You
I
should
have
start
many
saying that.
microphones
so
in
Is
my
that a
bag.
carry one, or
microphone?
at least tell people that's what it is.
They're like, what is this guy doing in the Galapagos Islands? What the heck is happening here?
Did you bring
Listen,
it?
it's a long voyage. There's a lot of time in the boat. You
Yeah.
got to pass the time.
Listen, I'm so glad that you're liberated, Dan. It sounds fine to me, like whatever brings you pleasure, especially a good microphone, right?
Sure, great microphone. You sound great. That's the key. You just want to sound good.
Caitlin, over to you. I always, whenever we talk to you, Dan, I hog you. And I always just keep you to
No.
myself. No, I
Always
do.
it.
I've listened back to appearances that you've done, and I'm like, I don't let anyone talk. And so because I have learned from listening to this podcast, Caitlin, over to you for the next query for our guest, Dan Riskin.
Well, this was a story that caught my attention in one of his bat signals, and I liked the way you phrased it. It was that news headlines are becoming clickbait, and then in brackets underneath, and you'll be shocked to learn why. Because if I see any more of these headlines, I'm gonna jump off a cliff. They make me crazy because I'm very
Yeah.
aware of what they're doing, but I
Sure.
don't know that everyone is.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for good stories for your work all the time, right? So you're just going through news feeds, you're going through websites, and like what headlines used to do was tell you what the article's about. That was the job of
Yes.
the headline, because you bought a newspaper and you opened the newspaper and there was a headline and it said, here's an article about this. And you're like, oh, that's helpful. I will read that. And then you read it and it was about the thing that the headline said. But headlines no longer have that job because you don't buy the newspaper and then open it up anymore. You scroll. And when you're scrolling, they get paid if you click on the article to read it. And so the game is not accurately represent what's in the article. The game is, can I make you click on me? And it doesn't matter if the article actually reflects what you say. And so this new study shows that a whole bunch of things over the last 20 years have changed in terms of like the headlines are longer. They say things like I or you, like you won't believe, or, and they're also very vague and they aren't really connected to what's in there. But what's really difficult about it is that this has become a trend for all the newspapers, even the good ones, right? So if you look at like New York Times articles compared to like the Clicky McClick Pants, whatever the website is, they kind of have the same format now, and so you can't differentiate quality based on the headline anymore.
Yeah.
And so and this is, I mean, I'm always thinking about things as evolution, but this is a result of the evolutionary pressures on headlines. It used to be that headlines were selected, like a good headline was measured by whether people felt like it was, it had a job, and its job was to represent what was in the article. Now the job of the headline is to get more clicks, and so because it's under a different selective pressure, it has evolved to have a different morphology. And that's exactly like the way evolution works on animals. So anyway, they have changed. And so people are sort of pointing out that this is a problem, because now when you go through your feed, you can't tell the good articles from the bad. You don't know exactly, like, you don't know what you're going to be finding out when you click on one of those links.
And then you're trying to find the shocking thing. I'm always like, when this first started happening, and you will be shocked. TikTok does it as well. X does it as well. You can click on things for a while. There was this Howie Mandel thing going around. Howie Mandel said this, and you will be shocked. And there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like, I finally caved in. I thought, okay, what the fuck did Howie Mandel do? Because I'm going to go find out.
I know, and you hate yourself for clicking on it.
And I go on there, and there's nothing. It's like taking me to, we studied 44 sets of twins. Here's their photographs. Like, I'm like, where are you taking me? Where did I just go?
Yeah.
So,
Or, like if there's an article, like a scientific article about like, this is really important for health. Like I had an article recently about how drinking black coffee is good for your health. It extends your lifespan. So that's great. Drinking this will extend your life. And you're like, oh, click what? And if it had been a newspaper, it would have said coffee, right? Yeah, water also I think is good for you, and coffee has a lot of water in it, which is probably part of the magic. But so anyway, the solution to this problem, as proposed, is that maybe there's a way to pay if people read the article. So instead of if they click, you get paid. Maybe if people read the article, then that's when you get paid. And then that would change the selective pressure on that headline and what its job was, so that you brought people to the headline, that you brought people to an article that they would find interesting. And so then that's a different sort of rubric. But right now that doesn't exist. And so we're stuck with clickbait headlines.
Even Sarah, commenting behavior. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, even commenting behavior, has changed to accommodate that. So you'll see that someone will post like one of those clickbaity headlines, and then the first 3 comments now on Instagram, at least, will be people who've clicked on it, saved you the time, and then actually say, oh, spoiler alert, that drink was coffee. And
Yeah.
everyone just starts to do that because everyone is collectively annoyed by this clickbait process. But I get why publishers are doing it. I just think it looks subjectively stupid.
Yeah, it does look stupid and it's annoying and nobody likes it. And it's just another one of these examples of like, we're not, the internet's still kind of young. We're still figuring out how to make it all work. And maybe in 20 years, the headlines will
How
look
old
better
is
again.
the internet, Dan Riskin?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it depends who you ask and sort of what they're
Okay.
taking credit for, but I don't exactly know what the right answer is. It's less than 100. How's that?
One moment, please. Our producer and engineer
51
aficionado.
years.
51?
51 years. It was
Jesus.
established in 1973 as ARPANET. ARPANET.
ARPANET.
That's just,
It didn't stick. The name just didn't stick.
Yeah, and then it switched to TCP on January 1st, 1983, considered the birth of the modern internet.
Well, there you go.
We're going to
There
go
you
with
go.
83. I'm going with 83.
Okay.
All right.
I love and I hate the internet because I've learned a lot. And I think you, like anything else, have to be guided by making good choices for yourself. Of just how much you take in your life. And I mean, there's lots of other places to get information, but obviously this is the most simple
The
to
Jann
be
Arden
stationary and to find out everything and to do everything and to have everything, at the palm of your hand is,
Yeah.
it still blows my mind when I'm traveling of how much travel has changed for me since even the early 90s when I started out, and there was certainly internet then. The dial-up drove me goddamn crazy going into hotel rooms. And you're waiting. Everyone knew that sound.
Yeah.
And just to send off emails that you'd had banked for 3 days traveling and finally have a place where you could send them out. But I'm, I travel and I'm so comforted by having a phone to watch movies or, on most planes now you can get Wi-Fi. I don't know. Sorry, we've kind of segued into Wi-Fi, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on, do you have any sense of where we're headed with AI and Wi-Fi, Dan? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't do a lot of AI, but maybe you have some comments
maybe
to
you're
that.
doing more than you realize. I mean, when you're looking at all those headlines and you're looking at all those articles and those feeds that come to you, I mean, there's a lot of AI sort of behind the scenes where they're
Okay.
choosing what to send to you. And I think for me, part of what I worry about, you talk about just the feed and the overwhelming amount of information, is that less and less do I feel like I'm choosing what comes to me, right? It's like really hard to, like, part of the reason I cringe when I click on that clickbait title is that I know I'm just feeding the algorithm like, oh, that's how you get Dan. If you want Dan to click on things, use this. And then I'm going to get tons more of that, right? Because there are all these algorithms and AI and all these other pieces that are just trying to feed me junk that's going to lead me to an advertiser. Whereas what I would really like is the most surprising, beautiful, lovely things that the world has to offer, right? The kinds of things that my mom takes the time to forward to me instead. Like, that's how I get these pieces. So it's tough because it is an overwhelming amount, and the algorithms they're not really built with you in mind. They're built with the advertisers in mind, or the company that makes the social media feed in mind, right? They're trying to they're trying to do what's best for them, and that's not always what's best for me. I mean, and sometimes it is, but usually it isn't.
Yeah, it is. I know that when I change my habits is what I let my eyes rest on for 10 or 15 seconds on all formats like TikTok, Instagram, X. I did change it quite a bit because my friend suggested, don't be tempted to stay on. Like I was getting a lot of animal cruelty because of my obviously passion for
not
alerting
animal cruelty.
people.
Your passion is for not animal cruelty,
Yeah,
not for
no,
animal
no,
cruelty, and yet you get animal cruelty.
Yes.
That's the irony of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did change my habits for, a week, maybe 10 days. And I was really very surprised by the positivity of where I turned the corner. So it does work and it can really affect what you're seeing. Like I didn't want to see makeup tutorials by any stretch of the imagination, but I did click on quite a bit of stuff that I just wanted to turn that corner, and I absolutely did. I'm getting a lot more poetry. I'm
good.
still getting, animal welfare things that are certainly important, but not to the degree where it was 95% of my feed. And I just, after an hour of having a cup of tea, I'm like, eventually I would just go into the search bar and click on a completely different type of imagery that would come in, like, if I was looking at news and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah. No, can I throw one thing in there? One
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
I
yeah.
do is for YouTube. I have the settings so that it forgets my history every time. I don't let it
Ooh.
record my history. I don't know how I found that setting, but I flick that switch. And so now every time I open YouTube, it yells at me. It's like, we don't have your history. We don't know what to show you. And I'm like, good. And then I like search for the thing I need.
It's the
Now,
dementia setting.
What's that, sorry?
You've clicked onto the dementia setting.
Maybe I have dementia. I don't even know. But
Yeah.
now, like, it's a pain because if I saw a video and I want to pull it back up, it's like, we don't know what you've seen because we don't record your history, Dan. And I'm like, well, fine, it's worth it because now you don't know my like. There's no algorithm with me and YouTube. We get along just fine because it doesn't know anything about me. But Instagram, which I have an account which I post to, it knows me way too well, and I don't like it one bit. And I'm off most of the other ones. I've walked away from X, and I haven't engaged with TikTok. I use LinkedIn too. That's another one where the algorithms have got me. But YouTube, I'm winning that fist fight.
Good. I'm glad. Well, this is a perfect segue. For seniors, brain health is tied to a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Do tell.
So there's a question about how happy seniors are and how well their brains work, like their cognitive abilities. And it's been a sort of which came first, the chicken or the egg sort of a thing for a long time. And this is a new study where they followed a bunch of seniors over 10 years and checked in on them every year to see how their brain health was and then to see how happy they were. And what they found is that it is a chicken and egg situation in that they both affect each other. Like it goes back and forth. So if your mental health is good, you're probably going to be happier. If you're happier, you're probably going to have better mental health in the next year. But the piece of happiness that seemed to really have a big correlation with the overall brain health was this sense of purpose, this idea that you're here for a reason and you have a reason to be here and a thing that you do that brings something to the world around you. And that could be, obviously that's different for different people. But I thought that was really interesting because it's not just sort of, do you feel a sense of belonging or do you feel like you have autonomy, like you're in control of your own life? Those weren't as important as this sense of purpose. And I thought that was really beautiful because, I have a sense of purpose in my life, my kids, and also spreading the gospel on science. And I feel like those are things that keep me going. And so it's nice to know that those have the fringe benefit that they're helping me keep my bats in my belfry, so to speak.
Yeah, it just seems like it's very simple things that keep us all kind of motivated and going. My mom, certainly when she was in the throes of Alzheimer's, she was still really fun to engage with. It was kind of that short-term repetitive thing, but she would often say, I have a purposeful life. And she used that word specifically. Like I would often just sit her down with a big laundry bin full of tea towels. And I would just have her fold and refold. As her folding pile went, I would literally grab them and shake them out and put them back into the plastic bin. And we would put on God forgive me, Bill O'Reilly. Please, Jesus, forgive me for that. But we would put Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. My mom loved Bill O'Reilly. And I just watched her fold tea towels. But it was a purpose. It was something for her to do. Or I would have her dice carrots into these minuscule microscopic little pieces. I would give her a carrot and a knife and hope that she didn't take her fingers off. And we would sit and do that. So I do understand purpose. I mean, I know she's sort of in a place of memory loss, but I still think the part that's intact, it's still important to have purpose. I think people need to remind themselves of that, even in the face of terminal illness. I've heard people talk about purpose and doing things even in light of having 2 or 3 or 4 months to live and resigning themselves to that, but still not sitting and waiting, not sitting in a chair, but being very purposeful and using that time. And that often really is, I find that very inspiring about human nature, that we, in the face of complete and utter disaster, still find it important to do something right up to the very end.
Yeah, I that's beautiful what you said about your mom. And I mean, life is really about the folding of tea towels. It's not about the stack of tea towels, right? It's the process. It's the vacation you go on, not the pictures you have of that vacation. it's and like I'm always, talking about science, and the point I always make about science is that science is the process. It's not the information we have, it's not all the knowledge we have, it's the question we haven't answered, and the fun of trying to figure out what the next answer is going to be, and the process of being curious, and that curiosity that really makes it worthwhile. Because once you know things and you stop looking and you stop learning, then you're no better than anybody that throws science out the door. I mean, it's just a body of knowledge. And so it's beautiful to hear you share that same sentiment in a totally different context, and it's that's really nice.
Well, there's no end to the stuff we get to learn about too. So in our lifespans, there's certainly no end to our internet. There's no end to what we can do. And we tried to during COVID. We tried to find the end of the internet. We tried to find the end of Netflix. We tried to find the end of knowledge as we knew it, baking cinnamon buns or the baking of bread. And we never found it. We never even came close.
No.
Caitlin, over to you. I'm not going to take up all of Dan's precious time.
I love it. I'm having so much fun. This is good.
I want to talk about the study that you had shared on people's ability to recognize AI generated images and how attractiveness plays into this for faces specifically.
Yeah, I'm always the thing about AI generated images is that things are changing so fast all the time that I always worry that like we've got this big study and here's how it works when people are interacting with AI images, but then like a week later AI images look way more realistic. So take this with a grain of salt in that direction. But what was interesting is they had this study where they showed young people, they showed them a face, and it was a face from a big database of real faces, and they showed the face for half a second, 500 milliseconds. It would flash and then it would disappear, and then a new one would come and flash and disappear, and people were asked to rate for each of them, are they real or are they AI generated? Now what the people in the experiment didn't know is that they were all real. They were all totally real faces, and the question was, how much are they going to think they're seeing an AI face when they're not really? And so they did this, and then they were also asked about attractiveness of the faces. And these are standardized faces from a database where the attractiveness has been measured a whole bunch of different times. So these people are rated in terms of how good looking they are. And what they found is that when men see a really attractive face, they don't believe it's AI. If it's a very attractive face, they're not going to say it's AI. But if it's not attractive, they're willing to say that it's AI. And like, I think it was 44% of the faces they said were AI generated, when none of them actually were. Right. And so this is part of the issue, is we don't trust things. But the fact that we have these sort of instincts that are built around looking for attractive faces, and what that does to our subconscious is sort of counterintuitive, I think. And so men have a blind spot for pretty faces. Women had a blind spot for good-looking faces and super ugly faces. They also didn't think those were AI generated, which speaks to how ugly men are, frankly. I think that's just a fact that you have to deal with, that really ugly men really do exist. And so you're like, yeah, no, ugly, that guy's ugly. He can't be AI generated because he looks like what I've had to deal with in my life in terms of how ugly men are. So anyway, just really interesting that attractiveness plays into our willingness to believe something's real or not. And I'm sure that the algorithms are preying on us as a result.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on AI in the dating apps. I'm like, this man is
no,
not
I want to start
real.
you on that. Tell me about it.
There's so many profiles that I look at. It's got like very little information, or it's like the most generic line, like loves long walks on the beach and ice cream, like literally one line. And
seriously,
then
people say that?
Yes, unfortunately. You flip through like 2 photos, and I'm like, this person doesn't look real. Like they used an app. This photo is from an app. Like you can tell. I can tell anyway in a dating app. I haven't yet been catfished into meeting one of these AI generated people, but who knows?
Have you run into an AI penis? This is all I want to know.
I'm sure they're out there.
The AIP?
Yeah.
I think that's just,
the
Dan's.
AIP.
I think it's just Dan's microphone, honestly.
It might have been my microphone. Yeah, exactly. You know what? I had a friend of mine, and I'm telling a story that flatters me, and I shouldn't do this, but a friend of mine got attempted catfish, and it was a picture. I don't know how they got it, but it was a picture of me that somebody was using on their dating profile. So somebody had like a screen grab of me from YouTube.
I tried to ask you out.
That hot bat guy.
It's the bat guy. So anyway, like my bookshelf, my face, and it said like my name is Kumar or something like that.
What?
It was awesome. Yeah, seriously. And I was
it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah,
Ghosted by Kumar.
Yeah. Sorry, I had nothing to do with it. I did not. I didn't sign a release. So anyway, but I've been with Shelby for long enough now that I sort of dodged the whole bullet on most of this online dating stuff. So I really have no experience in that world, but I have sympathy that AI does not make things simpler.
Yeah. I hope that AI will do better matching, though. I feel like there's an opportunity there still.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, but it's not just dating apps. Like, it's the whole internet that is, like, people worry the whole internet is just going to pot because it's harder and harder to find stuff that's generated by real people. And the more that it's generated by AI, the less interesting it is. Like, if I give you a book about a cute little pig, like, that I made up, or a story about birds that is like a science book about birds or whatever, and I wrote it and I give it to you, like, you might read it, you might not, but you're at least going to give it a chance. But if I say, hey, I had AI write you this story about a pig, like, who cares, right? Like, it wasn't until AI existed that I realized how important the relationship is between the reader and the author. I always thought that, like I have a whole bunch of books behind me, right? And, like, I always thought that, like, I just want to know about bats. And so if I had a textbook about bats, all that mattered was the information in it. I had no idea that the author mattered. I just, as long as they did a good job of getting all the right information, it could have been written by anybody. It doesn't matter. But honestly, these books that I have are all written by people. And if you give me an AI generated textbook on bats, I'm not going to trust that everything it says is correct. But let's say that you could even fix that problem. I'm also just not interested in reading it because there's something about the passion, even if they're not saying, like,
The
I
soul,
love bats so much.
the soul of it.
The soul,
the community,
absolutely.
the ability for human beings to communicate, through
and
language.
I have to think it's the same in your field,
and
right? In music,
and it's very
right?
obviously gone too. You kind of feel it. I think we will get better at identifying it. I mean, they're doing. We ran across, like, some kind of story a number of weeks ago. Hey guys, about them in Scandinavia teaching kids how to recognize fake news.
Yes. We've needed this for so long.
Yeah. And I think, Caitlin, we were all commenting on, wow, if there was ever a thing that kids should be learning in school, never mind home ec and how to make a muffin, but how to identify those clickbait headlines that are doing exactly just that, so the kids can look at it and disseminate whether it's something that is real or not real. And I think the younger we start educating people, young minds about that, they're the ones that are going to tackle this shit. And I think they're the ones that are going to abolish it too. I think they're the ones that are going to be like, you know what?
Grandparents also desperately need media literacy classes.
Oh yeah, they do.
You're not kidding.
They're the ones falling for the scams and stuff too. Like, we need it.
Yeah.
Well, the conspiracy shit too. I mean, the stuff that I used to get sent by my 92-year-old landscaper, and I actually took the time one day to go, Bob, stop sending me this stuff. It's absolutely not true and it's not real. Well, I said, Bob, I'm out in the real world. You're sitting in your house. You got to stop it. It is not real information. And, we had words, and I hated having to kind of put my foot down. Do not send this to me. Like, stop it.
I was just thinking about the backfiring of AI. We were actually victims, the Jann Arden podcast YouTube, of some bad AI.
Yeah.
So
what happened?
Basically, like, about a year ago, it was last summer, out of nowhere, Caitlin's like, do you have access to our YouTube? I don't know what's going on. Like, out of nowhere, we lost access to our YouTube. And I mean, there's things built in AI wise to some of these platforms to protect creators, which, of course, they were trying to protect Jann Arden's music YouTube. But that AI flagged us as impersonators. And it's like, no, this is the real Jann Arden as well.
Wow. How did you fix it?
It was a lot. You tell them the story.
It was a listener. A listener ended up helping us, honestly.
So we had a sponsor who, one of the contacts was married to someone who worked at YouTube, who I harassed on LinkedIn until I could get some help.
Yeah,
good
basically. That's the only way, because you can't actually talk to a person at YouTube unless you know a contact.
But this speaks to exactly the point about human connection, right? Doesn't it? It's like, for all the algorithms and all the email addresses and all the platforms and all the web forms, if you know somebody, that has value beyond this stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about the books, but I was also, like, thinking, Jen, for music, right? Like, there was this huge transition that happened from vinyl to digital, and a lot of people were really worried that something was going to be lost there, right? Because there was this fidelity that wasn't going to happen, but we've largely bridge that gap. Now, the next big possible transition is going to be from human singers to AI generated, like the JannArden.ai, where you say, you know what, I would love for Jan to sing this Johnny Cash
song. She wrote a song
song
called Bad Mother.
Yeah, exactly.
Mic drop.
So and so that is, and I think people were willing to make the jump from from vinyl to digital because it was still the singer, right? If anything, it was a more accurate representation of what the singer does with their voice with less crackle on it.
Yeah.
Although the crackle had a charm. But to lose the singer is, I think, a step that nobody's going to want to take, because that's what you get. Like, it's an artist, right? You don't want an AI generated painting. You want a painting done by a
Programs
person.
like
You want
this that we're on right now
Yeah.
have features that allow you to learn the voice of the speaker and type something and make the speaker say it. Like, it's a scary world out there.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
it's very
crazy.
odd. And Dan, you have a children's book. You have Fiona the Fruit Bat.
I
which
do.
you-
Fiona the Fruit Bat, which I wrote in no AI at all involved in that one.
Pre-AI. Well, and my son loves it. You graciously sent me a copy and he really enjoys it.
Well,
But
that's so nice.
because I buy an inordinate amount of kids' books now, I noticed that there are some where my husband and I will be reading it to them and we're like, oh, it's another AI one. Like, we can tell.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's just like the cadence of it. We're like, no human being would write this. Like, perhaps somebody typed in the rough idea for the story, but this was written by AI, full stop. Like that. Sometimes too, you'll notice the identifiers, like ChatGPT really frequently uses the M dash. And so people have been able to, and so you'll see stuff like that in a kid's book where I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense at all. And
wow.
yeah, so it is really a thing.
Well, yeah, no, my book, I did not use AI. I mean, AI, it's tricky. There's a new study that just came out about sort of the cognitive, what happens in a person's brain when they write an essay with. Did you see it? Yeah. So they compared what happens in the brain if a person, so they had university students write 3 essays over the course of a couple months, I think. And they were in 3 groups. So some people wrote the essay with no help from the internet, no help from AI. Second group had Google, but no AI. And the third group had AI. And so they could use it as much as they want. And what they found is the brain lights up a lot more, and there's a lot more connectivity when you have to do everything yourself. No surprise there. A little bit less so if you're using the internet to help search things, and then even less if you're using AI. And what they found is that as people did their essays and the third time, they might, if they were in the AI group, they probably wouldn't have copied and pasted large sections the first time, but by the third they were doing that. And that became more and more common. And when you ask somebody about the essay they just handed in, people that wrote it with AI couldn't quote from it. They didn't know really what they'd said. And people that had written it by hand obviously could. And so, there's the finished product of the book itself, but there's also like what happens when you write. To create art makes you, it's part of how you build who you are, right? Making art is good for you as a person. And so to lose that, I think writing essays is good for you as a thinker. And so to lose that, and I worry about my kids growing up in this AI age, their ability to just write an essay without somebody filling in the dots.
Kids aren't even learning cursive anymore.
Yeah. My kids know cursive. I don't know how they did. They must have unique teachers, but my kids are very proud that they can write cursive.
Oh my God, I'm so grateful that I can print and write cursive. And, I look at some of my mom's old letters and my grandma's old letters, and I'm just dazzled.
Oh yeah, handwriting back in the day is so good.
I mean, this is unlined paper.
Yeah.
And when they were writing letters to each other, I just was like, that is the most beautiful H I've ever seen in my life, and the most beautiful J. The way my mom used to write my name was exactly the way letters were supposed to look, and the loop on the N and anyway, I'm my writing has gotten so shitty over the last 7 or 8 years.
Well, we don't write much.
I have a hard time reading my own journaling. I'm like, what the fuck? What was that? Is that the word the? What am I doing? Like, I just so hard to figure out.
Tell me about your journaling. Do you journal? How often do you journal?
Every night.
Really?
Yeah, I've
by hand?
journaled since I was a kid, so I have hundreds of journals. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I think they're very dissatisfying and uninteresting. Early days as a teenager, and I had a lot of code words that I have no fucking idea what they are now.
Cool.
I don't know who JP is or who or there's certain things that I did with LRS, and I'm like, what is that? What did I do with LRS? Like it's just, I didn't put in a legend, Dan. I didn't put in a legend.
Well, it was you didn't want somebody to read it and
you
find
were
out what you've been
preparing
up
that
to.
if someone did read it, that they wouldn't be able to decode.
Exactly.
I think it's smart.
Yeah, Jan, I did the same thing as a teenager because I was hedging against thinking either of my parents would read my diaries, so I did have codes.
Caitlin, do you still journal every day?
No.
Oh,
I should.
That's too bad. You should.
I really enjoy it. Even when I'm exhausted and I write, I'm so exhausted I can't write another line, but Yeah, I don't know what. It's not like I'm Andy Warhol. I have no names to drop. It's like fucked up cabbage rolls today. Not going to try that again. Steam the cabbage too long. And I forgot the salt. I don't know. I mean, it's just things. I don't have anything
So what do you
really
get
lascivious to put in there,
But
or
what do you put? I mean, so like it's the end of the day, you're exhausted, you want to crash, and you're like, I just first have to write down in this journal that nobody's going to read about the cabbage rolls and my experience
well,
with
and
them.
I write a lot about feelings. I mean,
Okay.
I've been writing a lot about the war. I've been writing a lot about Gaza. I've been writing a lot about aging white men and the patriarchy. I've been writing about love. I've
We're
been
the
writing
worst.
about, traveling a lot and what people are like in airports. Like I do hit on everything. It's very,
Saw that man's toes at the airport today.
well, yeah, the one thing I decided to do many years ago was to not edit myself and not censor myself. And I write the way I don't write for people to read. So I'm not engaged in the reader at all. I'm not concerned with the reader. The reader doesn't exist. This is note to self. This is an inner workings. This is me having very candid conversations with myself. So they're very vulnerable. And, I talk about my body. I talk about, menopause. I talk about things that I'm thinking, people that I'm attracted to. It runs the gamut. And, failings, things that I thought about this today and felt bad about that. Like it's really when there's no reader, you are very unlimited. I think like someone like Virginia Woolf, for instance, she was so brilliant, but she very much was a diarist who wrote in a way that she was very aware of the reader on her shoulder. So when you read it, it's like, holy shit, this was for me. This had nothing to do with her. She wanted to make sure that she sounded intelligent, that her thoughts were very flowery. There was a lot of superlatives. I mean, I'm rambling on, but there's a way of journaling that I think can really liberate your soul, and it can really help you sort things out. I think it's a very cheap form of therapy. And I also think it's really important to get yourself a great book, a journaling book, and a really nice pen. And it's important to get it off the computer. Do not journal on a computer. Do not type out. You have to have a connection.
The pen changed it. It really did.
Yeah. You have to have a pen in hand and paper.
Nice one.
And that's how it works.
It's the tea towels again, right? It's the process of folding the tea towels, not the stack of tea towels you have at the end. So it's the process of getting those ideas onto paper that has value, not what you've written in the end.
Yeah. And in CBT, Jan, you hit the nail on the head. They do recommend like journaling and stuff as a way to process your own emotions about so many things. And if you're going through periods of hardship in your life, that is an easy recommendation for helping you kind of decide how you feel about it and remove yourself. It gives you a little bit of healthy psychological distance from like how you're feeling. And it's actually quite smart. You're right. It's cheap therapy. Anyone who's like, you know what, this therapy thing is really expensive, just journal maybe.
Yeah, I'm glad that I started doing it as a kid. Some of them are so unreadable. Oh my God. They're so embarrassing and so cringy. But I'm just like, oh, I still like that kid. Like she was such a nut. And I don't know what you're talking about,
It's a way
dude.
to stay like in touch with all the versions of yourself.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
But anyway, listen, we could have you here for like 19 hours, Dan. And once again, you have just been completely captivating and interesting. And there's so many things that we can unravel at the end of these podcasts with you, because there's just so many things to consider and to think about and to talk about. But you're a joy to have on the show. And I hope you'll come back and see us again.
Listen, the pleasure is mine. You're so fun to talk to. I learn a ton every time we chat. Like, for example, when the internet started, which I feel like I should have known before I got here, or the names of some of the Galapagos Islands, which also I should have been prepared with. But no, it's such a sincere pleasure. And I have lots of people in my extended universe that are huge fans of you. So I also feel a sense of like bragging rights whenever I get to hang out with you. So this is cool for me. I'll
you
come
have
back
a family member going to one
time.
of Jan's shows soon.
I do. My brother and his wife in Edmonton.
Can you please send me the name? Because I'm going to shout them out. I won't make them come on stage or anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I will definitely shout out. Don't make me go, is Dan Riskin's brother here?
You know what? I'd prefer that, because I wish more people just called him Dan Riskin's brother. I don't like that he's got his own name.
We can do that too, and then we can get the house lights up and all that shit.
That's your ego talking. It's so funny.
I love it. We'll definitely do that.
Well, once again, Dan Riskin has been our guest, and he's a multi-talented, always very, very interesting, and a guy that just wears his heart on his sleeve. So I hope you'll come back, Dan, and we'll see you next time on the Jann Arden podcast. We need to start getting T-shirts for our guests, and in the meantime, I'll just send you one of my brassieres. So
done.
That's I can sign it. It's a Wonder Bra brassiere that they used to sponsor us. Maybe we can get them back. Maybe this is a cheap ploy to get them back on the show. But have a great summer, and let's try and like find out how your summer went. We can look at the end of August or September or something and just see what the hell is going on in the world. You've been listening to the Jann Arden podcast and show. Come and see us on Patreon, because we're going to do some Patreon content, and it's like a whole extra podcast coming up right after this. Caitlin Green is here as always. Sarah Burke. I'm very proud of my team and how hard they work and how amazing they are and how kind they are and how they support me. And I just couldn't ask to be working with two better women that show me every day that great people are out there, and that, like I said, and I'll say it again, if I was a mom, if either of these girls was my daughter, I would be so proud. Anyway, stop it. Jann Arden podcast, you've been listening to us. We'll see you next time. Toodly-doo.